Hey, welcome everyone. I am Mayor Kel Palguda, and this is another episode of Council Chat here on Channel 56. I want to welcome our guest, Missy, here today, and she's going to discuss some amazing things happening over at Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. So welcome.
Thank you.
Can you please just introduce yourself and let's just talk a little briefly about what YFAC does.
Great, yes. My name is Missy Sikora. I'm the director at the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. I've been there about 4.5 years. The Advocacy Center itself has been in operation since October of 2000, so we just hit our 20-year mark, or we will in the next week or two. It's located here in Prescott Valley in the old library, great old building. And what we do is we do 3 different things for our community. We facilitate the investigation process, so we partner with law enforcement and Department of Child Safety. In the evidence collection, that would be medical exams or forensic interviews.
And evidence examinations or forensic interviews for what type of crimes?
For sexual assault and child abuse crimes.
Okay.
And DV crimes. So the medical exams, we would either do a sexual assault medical exam or we do strangulation exams.
Gotcha.
We have trained nurses that do those exams. And then forensic interviews are primarily on children, but we can conduct those on vulnerable adults or adults that are more timid being interviewed by law enforcement. They'll bring those people into our center. Then the main piece of what we do is we support the victims through any of those types of investigations or any of those crimes that have happened against them that may not be investigated. So we have full-time advocates on staff, bilingual and English speaking, that provide support through that investigation process, advocacy in the court, so they will accompany them to court if somebody's being charged with a crime that they'd committed against them. Or they will accompany them to court if they're fighting for custody or going to divorce court, those kinds of things against somebody that's perpetrated a crime against them.
So basically, it's obviously people that come to see you have gone through a very traumatic experience, whether young and old. And you talk about a forensic interview for children. So it might not be the same for our listeners so they understand. It's not like how you and I are talking right now, correct? It's a different type of environment you try to create. Let's talk about that a little bit.
It's a very kind of warm, neutral setting, just like the entire space at YFAC is. We really want it to be homey and friendly and welcoming to people. And that forensic interview room is set up in that same way. And then it's a trained forensic interviewer, so it's someone on my staff conducting the interview with the child in a very open-ended, non-leading way. And the questions, and people are trained when they do these interviews to kind of just solicit a narrative from the child in their words, and allow them to tell the story the way they want to tell it, not necessarily answer questions about who, what, when, where, why. Although we do get that information, we just get it in a different way that is less traumatizing. I always, try to remind people, if you're a person who's ever gone through anything very horrific, so maybe you've witnessed a horrible car accident, someone in your family has had something bad happen to them in front of you. Every time you tell that story, it brings it back up for you. You feel that stress and that anxiety, your heart beats faster. So imagine that you being a child and that crime happened to you. It's not even something you witnessed. So we really want them to be able to tell the story one time in an environment that is as least traumatizing as possible. We have detectives in the building. We have Department of Child Safety in the building. They're watching and monitoring the entire process. And they're feeding questions, and so they're getting all their questions answered at once. So the child really only has to talk about that experience one time rather than being interviewed by separate parties, which historically is what always happened.
And as a police officer, I've seen many interviews performed there, and there's times where a detective or the forensic interviewer will be just coloring with the child for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, just coloring and trying to get that child to feel comfortable. So it's truly an amazing art of communication that you folks do over there. And let's talk a little bit more. Where else is like a YFAC facility located throughout the county?
We are the only advocacy center in the county. We serve the entire county. Last year in 2019, we gave services to about 1,100 victims countywide. And that's, we call them interpersonal crimes, but that's domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, stalking, elder abuse, human trafficking, We give services to someone who's a survivor of a suicide or a survivor of a homicide, so a family member where that's happened.
Gotcha.
They've gone through the trauma, so those are what we call interpersonal crimes. So about 1,100 last year, and my numbers I just checked last week, even with COVID, we will be over that this year.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. And again, the building is located on the corner, almost on the corner of Bob Drive and Yavapai, across from Engine 53, for those of you that are familiar with Prescott Valley, correct?
Yes.
What else do we have going on at YFAC?
Well, I really want our community to know that we don't just take cases through law enforcement or DCS. People can walk up and knock on our door.
Okay.
For instance, we had a woman come to our center a month or so ago and tell us she'd been in a domestic violence relationship for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. Her husband died about 4 years ago, but she never sought help when it was going on. And she said that someone told her she should come and talk to us because she still has trouble sleeping at night.
Of course.
Gets a lot of anxiety in crowds, particularly if there's men, has a very difficult time doing anything socially with anyone. So
sure.
she's been isolating herself even though the person that was harming her is gone. So we got her involved at the Advocacy Center with a victim advocate, and she had one-on-one meetings with them. Then we got her enrolled in trauma therapy. We have 3 therapists that contract with us that we pay for the therapy. So everything at YFAC is free of charge.
Gotcha.
And then we got her involved in domestic violence support groups. So she comes to that weekly.
Sure.
And she's really, even this little time that's passed, she's a different person.
No, that's
just really
that's
amazing.
Incredible. That's a great story, and I'm sure you touch lives, stories like that, every day or every month. So that's awesome. What else do we have going in regards to awareness?
So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month nationally. Everything's different this year. So
yeah, COVID kind of changes a lot of things.
It does.
So what are we doing this year?
Well, YFAC is participating in some statewide trainings through the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith and Family. They've asked us to help create some trainings, and they'll be posting those statewide throughout the month of October. So we're partnering with them, and then YFAC itself on our social media site is going to be posting some videos, some links, a lot of resources around domestic violence awareness. And then we are also part of the Community Coordinated Response Team, so CCRT, which Prescott Valley Police Department hosts and runs. Yes. And they are running a social media campaign around domestic violence awareness. So,
gotcha.
And I know the town of Prescott Valley has always just been one of our biggest advocates in this cause, lighting the building purple for October.
Yes. We'll have a big banner outside the town hall.
Yeah, and it's just invaluable because I think that just really brings in everyday community members that think this doesn't affect them, but if we stop and think about it, it really affects everyone. It touches all of us.
So you mentioned a little something about social media and your social media page. Are you on Facebook?
We are on Facebook.
Okay.
YFAC.org.
YFAC.org.
Yeah, that's our website, but then that's how you can locate us on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and search YFAC, and we are there.
Okay.
YFAC, and we post a lot of great supports and resources on there. Sometimes we'll reference one of our community partners, such as Stepping Stones or Verde Valley Sanctuary, the shelters for homeless people who are victims of violence. So,
and is it monitored where people can message you on
Yes, absolutely. They can message us through our Facebook page. They can message us through our website at yfac.org.
Okay.
Or they can call our center directly at 928-775-0669.
And that's regular business hours?
8 to 5 Monday through Friday, although we have after hours workers. So if law enforcement needs us or we need to do one of those medical or forensic exams, we're available 24/7, 365 days a year.
So you obviously have staff on call, and if there's an emergency situation, you encourage people to call the police department first?
Correct.
And then they'll be able to reach out during non-business hours?
Yes, yeah, because those emergency services, we really coordinate scheduling those through law enforcement because they are evidence specific. So a lot of times people will suspect something with their child and they'll call us directly and ask us if they can get an interview. We really have to redirect them back to law enforcement, or we'll call law enforcement ourselves and get everybody coordinated. But it is for evidence collection, so there's a purpose behind it, and we want to make sure law enforcement, and we're all mandated reporters. So if we know something's going on with a child, we would need to report it anyway.
Sure. In regards to the space that you're in, Is it big enough? Is it too small? Tell us about that.
We are busting at our seams. I think I showed you that.
Yes.
I believe when Becky Ruffner retired, you came over and we
Yes.
took a tour. And we are busting at our seams. When I took over at the beginning of 2016, I had 2.5 advocate staff. I didn't have a full-time forensic interviewer at the time. So really we had like 4.5 or 5 full-time staff. Now we have 9 full-time staff.
Excellent.
We are just exponentially growing in the amount of services that we need to provide in Yavapai County. That my first year there, we provided right around 500. Now we're going to be at 12 or 1,300 clients served. So
That's
it
crazy.
just, and I think that doesn't match the numbers. So it's not like the crime has increased that
Sure.
much. And you know that from being in law enforcement. It's that the awareness about services have increased,
Right.
and our law enforcement have become so much more informed on trauma-informed care. They know about it and they want to provide the best care to their victims. So they're making sure to connect them with us and bring them into us when those
I think
crimes
one of the
happen.
big things is, and this was used another episode ago, about don't suffer in silence. And that almost still applies to, what you have going on at your facility, where things happen, people are scared, they don't know what to say, they don't know who to talk to, and you're giving them basically that avenue to try to communicate with them and with you and try to get them some support. So
Absolutely. And especially during this time of COVID, we
course.
have people who are completely in isolation,
Yes.
and then stress and anxiety of what's going on in our environment, losing your job, no human connections with people
Sure.
outside your home is just compounding the issue. So people who don't deal with stress that well anyway,
Right.
are really exacerbating those behaviors, and so
course.
then abuse is happening more often. But then the victim isn't getting the freedom to make a phone call when he goes to work because
Right.
maybe he doesn't work anymore.
Sure.
Or when she goes to work. So it's don't suffer in silence. Just give a call, give a text. We can be very discreet. Everything is victim driven. We don't. We have no requirements. You can call
Gotcha.
us once and never call again.
Okay.
You can talk to us every day.
Sure.
So it's completely up to the victim.
Gotcha. So are you folks 501c3? How are you funded? Can people donate? How does that work?
We love donations, and we
Okay.
just had our one annual fundraising event last Friday. We had it virtual. Normally it's a live gala
Sure.
dinner every year, but it was this past Friday evening. But we love donations. You can donate at yfac.org.
Okay.
Again, we have a link on our site. The Yavapai Family Advocacy Center is a project of Prevent Child Abuse Arizona, which is
Okay.
a 501c3. It's a larger nonprofit
Gotcha.
that's statewide. We are their only project that is direct service driven. So we're the rest of their projects are training projects that go statewide that train people that work with families. We're the only one that work with families directly.
So you're looking for a monetary donation? There's nothing else you
Monetary
need?
donations. We have a lot of groups that do drives for us, different
Okay.
types of drives. We ask that you always just call the office and talk to either Beth Murray, the office administrator, or myself, and we'll let you know, because we are so limited on space, what our need is right now.
Okay.
So sometimes people do stuffed animal drives for us. We loved those. We give
Sure.
a new stuffed animal to every child that comes through the center.
Gotcha.
But if those cupboards are full and we don't have things like snacks and water bottles, we might ask for help in that area.
Gotcha.
That kind
No.
of thing. And we love volunteers.
Okay.
We love volunteers.
And again, if people want to volunteer, they reach out to the office?
They can call the office directly, or you can go on yfac.org, and there's a link to fill out just a simple one-page volunteer application.
And you're just, even if someone just has a few hours, one day a week or something like that? they don't-
Absolutely. We have volunteers that come in one day a month for, say, 4 or 6 hours and help us with more project-oriented things. We have
Okay.
volunteers that come in a half a day each week and run our front desk for us, answer the phones in the door, and do other
Sure.
things. So, and we have a million things that we need help with. So whatever, we try to find out what the volunteer's interest is and find something to match that.
Gotcha. Well, we're starting to wrap up a little bit. Is there one final thing you just want our viewers to just know about? When they hear about YFAC, what is it that you really want to come to mind?
What I really want people to know is that YFAC is here. We love being part of the community. We want community members to come and see us. Years ago, places like mine were considered something that needed to be hidden and kind of confidential, but that's not, the mindset's changed around that. We want to be an active part of our community. The more we talk about things like domestic violence and sexual assault, I think the less
Right.
likely they are to happen because, people are going to be more afraid to commit them in a community that's very supportive around these people that it's happening to.
Gotcha. Well, ma'am, I really appreciate you coming in. I know our viewers just love to hear what's going on, because a lot of people may not know what you do at YFAC, and it's important for them to know. So please reach out to YFAC, whether it's through Facebook, other social media, through their website, and just send them a message and let them know how they're doing, or if there's anything that you can do to help. So folks, thanks for joining us for Council Chat. Missy, thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
We'll see you next time, folks. Have a great night.